Widzowie, zobaczymy sobie film tak Grubbiego. Ktoś nie wie, to jest taki bardzo, ale to bardzo kompetytywny gracz Warcrafta 3, bardzo wysoko rankingowy, twórca internetowy, od dawna tworzy content z Warcrafta 3, ale bardzo mocno go maszuje i na przykład na pewnym etapie się przerzucił na Dotę i od samego dołu w Docie wbijał Immortala, najwyższą rangę. Bardzo ciekawe to było. A to jest film odnośnie 17 zmian, które chciałby zaproponować w Warcraftie 3 Reforged. No to dawaj, zobaczymy. Ale ja wam dam napisy.
And I'm in my late 50s. My long life has given me lots of time to think about Warcraft and Reforged and some improvements that could be made.
Jak 50 lat? Co on gada?
We all know and love. In the year 2020, Blizzard released their new client, Reforged, where everybody plays Warcraft 3 on right now, whether you use the old graphics or the new graphics. A Reign of Chaos CD key on your Battle.net account allows you to play Reforged with the old graphics, and if you have a Reforged copy, you could choose either one. Most serious players choose to use the old graphics. Besides the new graphics that were brought with Reforged, which most people don't like, Reforged still brought a whole slew of improvements and bugs, which is part of the reason the reviews were so deservedly scathing at the time.
Ja pamiętam, że widzowie była w pewnym momencie taka informacja, że podczas turnieju tyle razy wyrzucało klient gry, że w ogóle się przenieśli na oldschoolową wersję z jakiegoś instalera, nie?
But Warcraft has had many improvements as of recently. We've had some cool content, some cool collaborations and show matches like the Tyler 1 arc and the soda popping, learning of Warcraft 3. And so I feel like it's a good time to do a little letter to Blizzard of what I think are some easy wins when it comes to offering some extra quality of life to new players and to the existing player base. Things that I think, perhaps naively or perhaps correctly, are relatively light on development resources, but could be a massive improvement in quality of life for new players and experienced players alike. Here's my list of 17, if I don't think of any more, quality of life changes that I think could be swell. Number one, Reforged brought lightning fast loading when you queue up for a versus game on ladder and as you queue into the game. The loading is so fast that you can't even see what race you're playing against oftentimes. And unlike in StarCraft 2, there is no way to open a menu to see what race your opponent is.
Ej, tego to bym w ogóle nie podejrzewał. To bym w ogóle tego nie podejrzewał, że loading jest na tyle szybki, że nie jesteś w stanie zauważyć, na kogo grasz. Czy będą kubki w sklepie? Widzowie, tak, od czwartku na alldead.pl będzie już dostępny cały nowy asortyment. Zachęcam widzowie naprawdę do sprawdzenia, ponieważ nie jest to marka, którą ja reklamuję, to jest moja personalna marka, którą współtworzę z moją dziewczyną Amandą. I cały dochód tego sklepu jest przekazywany na nas, no nie? Więc bardzo was, widzowie, zachęcam do zakupu. Duża liczba różnych wzorów. Są wzory ostrzejsze, są wzory prostsze, są kubki, są smycze, są drukowane rogi 3D z mocowaniem na słuchawki, jeżeli byście chcieli kupić dziewczynie prezent. Na święta przewidujemy, i teraz uwaga, to jest banger, na święta przewidujemy, słuchajcie, we współpracy z rękodzielnikiem, srebrną biżuterię w naprawdę fajnych cenach, to też od razu mi się wydaje, że warto o tym wspomnieć, ale no będzie naprawdę dużo rzeczy od czwartku, więc w zależności w jakiej dacie to oglądacie, no to polecam sobie wejść na alldead.pl, będziecie mieć pierwszy link w opisie.
W3 Champions, which is a third-party server where you can also play Warcraft 3 via with a legal copy of Reforged.
Tak, ale to jest giga ciekawe. Problemem gry jest zbyt szybki loading. Kurde. Ciekawe.
No to mała informacja. By allowing you to type -game and it will show the races of every player in the game, provided that the race was known at loadup. It would of course not reveal a random player's race, as that is supposed to be a secret. I feel like Warcraft 3 could do it like how it is in StarCraft 2, where if you click on the Allied menu in the top right, you can see the opponent's race and everyone else's that is not you. Of course, you can see your own race by looking at your own base. I think this would be nice. Additionally, they could make the loading time artificially a bit longer than half a second. I mean, it sure is impressive to load that fast and everything, but I still feel like it's a good mixture between speed and quality of life. If the loading time would be set at a minimum of 2 seconds, just so you can kind of catch your bearings. Next up, another feature that W3 Champions already reprises, but I feel like should be part of the base game, is having a number over the gold mine with the available amount of workers that can go into the gold mine, in addition to the current number of workers in the gold mine, so that you know whether you've fully maxed out your mining in the gold mine yet. It would be shown as 5 out of 5, perhaps in green or without a color change, or 4 out of 5 if you haven't fully saturated the mine yet. Here's one that W3 Champions doesn't have yet, but I feel like would be a really good idea. It is actually really untransparent which creeps are going to be dropping the items. And many viewers in Warcraft 3 already make fun of all the pro gamers that are forgetting tomes of intelligence, tomes of agility, etc. because pros are so busy and zooming through the map that they're already looking away, and perhaps they forgot which exact creep is the one that's going to be dropping a tome, especially after maps are getting rebalanced and they're not how they used to be back when. So my idea was, if you could just show a subtle book icon either over the HP bar on...
Ale to jest, kurde stary, zobaczcie, że to są minimalne zmiany związane z takimi naprawdę quality of life'ami, których większość z was nawet by nie wymyśliła, ani na nie by nie wpadła pod względem tego, że nie zauważacie tego, nie będąc jakimś kompetytywnym graczem. Ale jednak w grze, która głównie bazuje na matchmakingu, na PvP, no to są rzeczy, które powinny być w jej podstawie, prawda?
Top of the HP bar or over the creep that is going to be carrying a Tome of Intelligence or the equivalent item drop, that could be quite nice. This would allow all the players that don't have perfect memory about which creeps are going to be dropping which item to see which one is going to be dropping a tome, and then you would have a treasure chest icon in the same place over any creeps that will be dropping a permanent item, such as a Wand of Illusions, a Claws of Attack, a Ring of Regeneration. You don't know obviously what it is going to be, though that is a discussion for another time. Should you be able to know what an item is going to be before it drops? Debatable. I don't know if I like it, but at least it can be discussed. But at least the fact that knowing that it's the Ogre Mage, not the Troll Priest or the Troll Warlord, that has the creep at this camp would be a nice quality of life feature for players that don't live, eat and breathe Warcraft 3 every day. It's not going to make any difference at the top level, which is my favorite type of change and quality of life improvement, because it literally helps bring up the newbies of the game a bit with more quality of life improvement without affecting the balance at all at the high level. It's literally a win-win, except for, of course, the development time required to design that and implement it into the game. But I think it'd be lovely. The fourth option is one where I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a good idea 6 years back when I was brainstorming about it, but now that W3 Champions has had it, I feel like it's so useful to learn the game and to teach the game to people. Having an in-game clock that pretty much just shows the amount of seconds and minutes that has passed.
A to jest fajne, bo coś takiego kiedyś się robiło za pomocą drugiego wskaźnika drewna na przykład, nie? W grach.
It's easy to get used to it from W3 Champions, and then when you play on Battle.net again or custom games, you're not going to have that anymore, and it's quite a shame.
Nie, poczekajcie, to nie było w docie drewnem, bo za drewno się kupowało bohatera. Nie, to było czymś innym zrobione, to była trzecia rubryka na to.
Toggle where it does or doesn't show, and of course while a real-time clock isn't as charming as the sun-night dial, translating every hour of past game time by the sun-night dial of Warcraft 3 at the middle top of the screen, remembering that 1 hour passed in game is equal to 20 seconds in the real world, and then doing your own maths with how many seconds has passed, definitely not as convenient. If I'm teaching a player, I would prefer to tell them that at exactly the 5-minute mark is when your Mountain King should be finishing, rather than saying, well, look to my coming at the third morrow of the, at 7 a.m. on the third day, and that's where the Mountain King, or that's where the Archmage is going to be coming out. So it's just a much easier number to translate. You would, of course, still keep the day-night cycle, but just a little clock, maybe where W3 Champions has it or somewhere else. When I'm loading the leaderboard to see where I'm ranking...
Jezu, kurwa, chłop ma 85% win rate'a. 90-16. Chłopie, jaki musisz być totalnym katem, kurwa, w taką grę, żeby mieć tak absurdalny win rate, nie? A to też jest świetne, bo to pokazuje, jak bardzo kompetytywny może być Warcraft i jak małym elementem tutaj najprawdopodobniej jest jakiś RNG, dobór teamu, prawda? Tutaj Wszystko, stary, jest spisane na ciebie, nic więcej. To jest niesamowite. Tak, w klasycznym Warcrafcie jest jakiś bonus za granie randomową rasą? Czy twoim bonusem jest to, że nie dostaje, że przeciwnik nie ma informacji, czym ty startujesz, przez co mu nie ma? Okej. A to jest ciekawe.
In the world right now, as I've been trying to get rank 1, for some reason it automatically
Aha, on jest rank 2, okej. Typs jest rank 1? A to patrz, jemu brakuje, stary, jednej wygranej, kurwa? No, jemu brakuje. Ile się dostaje memera za wygraną? Pewnie około 20 tego bym obstawiał. Co ty gadasz?
sorts by the race that I'm queuing up as. This is always the case whichever race you queue up as. And while there's many more pressing problems that perhaps need to be resolved on the ladder, I'm focusing on one that's a pretty easy fix. Just have us start at the all races button so we can see how we rank in general, which is surely a lot more interesting. It's also more homogeneous looking to see all the different colors and all the different races, and it's surely more relevant to see where you rank. If you then want to see how you rank among the undead players, you can always go and queue up on that, but it just feels kind of weird that it always groups you just with the other races, as if that's somehow the most important metric. I know this may not like super...
Ścianka leaderboard nie pasuje? Nie wiem, ja ostatnio mam takie wrażenie, że z fontami w grach jest jakiś bardzo duży problem. Czy to są napisy pod tym, pod narracją postaci, to co postać mówi, czy to są kwestie dialogowe, czy to są elementy interfejsu? Nawet tak jak teraz na to patrzę na te liczby i ja mam wrażenie, że tutaj jest coś nie tak, że to nie jest odpowiednie, że to nie ma odpowiedniej rozdzielczości, że to się, wiadomo, nie, że tutaj też konwersja YouTube'a i OBS-a, bo to jest w ogóle ściągane ze streama, no nie? To wideo, że gra tutaj jakieś takie pewne skrzypce, ale nie wiem, mam wrażenie, że jest duży problem ostatnio z fontami w grach.
affect everybody, but it's just something that's been rubbing me a little bit the wrong way, that I always need to go click on the all races, which generally is more interesting. Additionally, this screen could also focus specifically, to begin with, exactly on your own ranking. Notice how I'm not in the center of the screen. Of course, I want to be the center of focus, and any player is going to want to be the center of focus. And if they are not ranked, then it could at least show them their own number at the bottom always, like rank 347 or rank 11,700, which I think could be interesting rather than the way that it's being shown now.
Osób jest w laderze tego Warcrafta, to mnie stary ciekawi, nie? Muszę to
where you have
zobaczyć.
to go find your own name. Also an option in W3 Champions, but not yet on Battle.net's version of Warcraft 3, being able to choose your own colors when you play ladder. Right now it's completely randomized, which can lead to some pretty poor color matching.
Widzowie, jakimi kolorami zawsze graliście w Warcrafcie? Ja zawsze różowy. Mój ulubiony. Ja jak tylko mogłem, to różowy brałem.
I'm teal, they're blue. It's very similar looking, so I'm gonna press that button next to the minimap, which goes away from the crossed axis and into the allied colors, and I will always be blue and the opponent will always be red. That is a consistent way to play that gives me good recognizability and trains my muscle memory that blue is good and red is bad. But what if I wanted something else? I want that level of consistency, but I don't want to have specifically those colors because I'm so sick of them because I've been watching them for so long. I want to use the breadth and depth of color that Warcraft 3 has to offer, but I want to be able to choose which one it's going to be. So I'm always green, my opponent is always orange. W3 Champions allows this, but Warcraft 3 does not yet, and it'd be nice to have that functionality as well. Shouldn't be too difficult to be able to add an option in the option menu in the client of Warcraft 3 where you can choose your own color, choose allied's color, and choose the opponent's color. Also very friendly to colorblind players that may have some trouble distinguishing blue and red from each other. This one is a little bit more of a risky suggestion, but I feel pretty strongly about it, so I'm going to be including it anyway. Do you guys remember when chat in Warcraft 3 looked like this? The moment you log into Battle.net, ready to start playing some games, you would have this large social system where you see everybody talking and you could be in clans. The game focused on the social system, which feels like a fantastic play and move for developers because it increases the social feeling of being online. In StarCraft 2 nowadays, in Warcraft 3 nowadays, when you log in, you feel like an island, not even a monolith, just an island. You're on a single uninhabited island. Social system is completely gone. And there's really no reason to ever be inside Warcraft 3, the game, when you are not actually literally playing. Look how lonely this feels. I get this spider to keep me company. This is always dead because it's small and it's an opt-in button. Nobody talks here anymore. If I want to know who is in this place, I have to scroll through it. And we are all segregated in many different channels. And it just feels so dead. Remember this? It was so much fun. Now, that's not to say there were no weaknesses with this system. I still remember when I introduced my niece to StarCraft 1 for the first time, we logged in to StarCraft 1, which had a similar system to this, also very beautiful and charming looking, and the first message instantly was an insult about someone else's mother, along with desirable actions that would be done with their mother. This was a little embarrassing because it showed our game from the wrong side to her, but we managed to move past it, and she didn't mind too much or anything, and we ended up playing the game and having a great time. Why not have it be like W3 Champions, where by default you are not catapulted into the chat, but you could press one button to enter a large chat. Not the strange hidden, we are actually a little embarrassed of our social system and it is here at the bottom right because 90% of the screen must stay dead space. No. Have it be big, but have it be opt-in. That's a middle way between probably the sensitivity that Blizzard has towards potential public profanity right when you log in, but still allowing people that do want to opt into the conversation to have this more classical look. It's such a big improvement. Trust me, we're going to love spending time so much more on Battle.net if we can spend time in such a chat and not the new Battle.net system. This is how it looks now.
Ale to jest w ogóle podzielone na jakieś, nie wiem, ja zawsze jak wchodzę na ten czat, to tam jest 5 osób, to jest jakoś chyba podzielone na małe grupy ludzi, przez co z uwagi na to nie masz dostępu do jakiegokolwiek czatu, nie wiem, to jest jakiś absurd.
Visibility and clarity. When you log into the Warcraft 3 client, you are greeted with this screen. There is a little bit of confusion, allow me to explain. When you look at this screen, it is pretty obvious. If I click on this, I go to collection. If I click on this, I go to local area network. Click on custom games and I go to custom games, presumably online. But you don't really know. It could be online or offline. Technically, this button doesn't tell you.
Kurwa, to co on mówi brzmi giga absurdalnie, ale tak jest. Ja zawsze klikam versus, kurwa, pierwszy, bo mi się wydaje, że to będzie online. Bo to tak było kiedyś podzielone. Miałeś single player, multiplayer i dopiero wtedy se hostowałeś mapki, nie?
Probably means you're gonna play against other players, so that has to be online. Local area network is not online, and collection is probably not online either. So we've got this is online, not online, don't know, this is online, this is single player. So we've got this whole mix of services for which we are online and which we're not online.
Uwielbiam ludzi, którzy, słuchajcie, potrafią tak bardzo dużą wagę przykuć do elementu interfejsu i do sposobu podziału kategorii w grze. Też mega na to zwracam uwagę, ale bardzo sensownie to mówię.
When we click on single player, we get another menu that also says custom games in the exact same place. So if I look at that button in the middle, it's custom games. But is it online, offline? I don't know. Now, if you remember, I clicked on the single player button. But if you don't remember, then this doesn't tell you anything again. Is it online or is it offline? Custom campaign is probably offline because, you know, it's a single player campaign. Except, as a new player, I wouldn't know. Can I play the campaign with other players? A Warcraft player will tell you, no, you can't. Not unless you go into the custom games online. But a new player wouldn't know. Campaign, custom campaign, multiplayer or not? I don't know. View replay. Could be online, could be offline. Don't know. Load save game. Could be online, could be offline. So the grouping of the menu is not very obvious. I've tried to get people to join my custom game online before and they clicked this, which takes them into a menu of custom games, and when there's no place to search multiplayer games. Additionally, this is all quite confusing, which I hope I've illustrated, and I've got a suggestion on how to do it differently. But let's look at this screen. There's one more confusing part here. Even though each of these buttons are 5 different buttons that take you to 5 different places.
Jesteśmy w połowie wideo, a to jest giga ciekawe, bo jak na razie praktycznie nie ma nic o gameplayu, nie?
Our brain melds things together a bit. At least my brain does. My brain definitely melts a lot. And it says single player here. So if I were to guess whether this custom game is single player or not, and if I really think about it, I think this custom game is probably multiplayer, because there's the route to go to single player. So this must be that I am in the multiplayer menu, but I don't really know. If I think a little bit less and my eyes glaze over, I might be seeing single player and it enters my consciousness, and then I see custom games. So now I'm assuming that this custom game button is actually a single player custom game button. Either way, whether your brain works like mine or not, I think there's a lot to misassociate here.
Jest to logiczne.
So let's make it a little simpler if possible.
Pokretne, ale logiczne.
Have some kind of visibility to the fact that we're online here. If they implement the big chat or enter chat, then it's going to be more obvious. Have all the things that you can do online here together, such as play multiplayer games. It's called Versus, which I think sounds a bit lame. It should just say play multiplayer, ladder, or play ladder, play multiplayer, whatever, play ranked games, play unranked. I don't really know what it has to be called, but just say like, this is gameplay. This is like the custom games, user-generated content, custom games, you know, your tower defense and everything. It's allowed to explain a little bit more, have a bit more words or whatever, or you can keep it like this, but just make sure custom games online, like in some way. It can either be under an online header or you can say so on the button. And then local area network and single player could be in the same spot under single player. Collection, I don't really care where you put it. Once you go to single player, this should be like custom game offline, or maybe it should say here you're currently offline, or like you're not playing online. I don't know. I'm sure that people, if anyone at Blizzard is going to pick this up and agrees with me and thinks it's worth the development effort, I'm sure you can develop it much better. The UI and the buttons than the way that I'm describing it. But I hope at least I've convinced of the need that it could be done a lot better, and it would be good for player retention and
przeroutować każde menu. Chłopie, na pewno tego nie zmienią.
Growth. I also think it could be nice if when we're in this menu, which is the hub of online experience, by the way, that we would be using some of this dead space with something more interesting than a desolate, forsaken flag and a lot of rain. I think this screen could swap out into other images sometimes, so it looks more fresh. I think there could be analytics here that says, Grats, you won your last ladder game and you had X how much damage on your Blade Master or whatever. If this could be used for anything that feels engaging in any way whatsoever, even if it like by default shows your profile there instead of not showing your profile, maybe it could like show this, just make it a bit smaller and show it on the right, or maybe some
Dobre ma chłop staty. 91% humanami win rate, 100% orkami, 25-0.
some component of this. I'm not even asking for the world yet. I'm not asking for... By the way, holy crap! Oh my god! What? For years I had 5-1 in stats. Is this working again? I didn't know it got to this point. I have thousands of games on this account. I'm not even asking for the world and asking them to unstuck my 5-1 stats. I was going to say, but I'm at 8-2 now. That's crazy. On W3 Champions, when you
jest kategoria ze statystykami w grze, która się nie update'uje.
make control groups, like grouping 12 units to control group 1, there will be a little 1 over your UI that says there's 12 units inside, with perhaps the most important unit appearing first as an icon. I think this is a nice thing that many RTS games have, and it could be cool to give a little bit of visibility to players that they've made control groups and how many units there are in it.
Oh,
of course, this could be a toggle. If you don't want to display this, you could turn it off in the menu. Again, a setting to have it on or off, which does lead to a little bit more setting pressure for players. In that sense, it could be a negative, but I feel like it's generally a big positive if you have that option to show it. Currently, if you want to do hotkeys in Warcraft 3, you go to your settings, options.
Ty, a da się w Warcraftie teraz hotkeyować numpada?
You turn on classic custom grid, you go to custom, then you open a text file on your computer, which is custom keys text, which is in your documents folder, under the Warcraft folder, and then you open the custom keys txt, and then you start finding the abilities you want to change the hotkey for and changing it manually one by one. I think it'd be lovely if people could just go here, options, hotkeys, or under input, change hotkeys, and do it from inside here. And while we're at it, it would also be great if people could change their item inventory hotkeys. Item inventory hotkeys on Classic are numpad 7, numpad 8, numpad 4, numpad 2, etc. In this day and age, not every keyboard has a numpad anymore. Back in the times, everyone had a numpad. So some people literally cannot use hotkeys for items with Classic. On Grid, the hotkeys for items are T, Y, G, H, B, N, if I'm not mistaken, which is nice. It's right outside the grid that gets used for other hotkeys, and that's where the items are. It's pretty convenient. But what if you want to have it somewhere else? The only way to do it is via third-party software, such as auto hotkeys or war keys.
O Jezu, w starym Warcrafcie pamiętam, nie? Trzeba było za każdym razem odpalić osobny program, który ci rebindował.
Nice if people had that
itemy.
functionality to be able to manually choose their item hotkeys as well, and preferably all via the in-game menu. When you're placing a tower, a burrow, a guard tower, a cannon tower, an ancient protector in Warcraft 3, you are not presented with a dotted line of maximum range that tower can fire at. While this is partially a skill issue, I'm always assuming that active pro gamers are intimately familiar with the range and will rarely if ever get it wrong. While getting that wrong sometimes can lead to interesting spectating and playing experiences, so in order to preserve the spirit of skill for high-level players, perhaps some people will be critical of this change. I believe in lowering the skill floor of the game a bit if it doesn't affect high-level play too much or at all, and I feel like this is one of those. Having a dotted line to show the maximum attack range is something a lot of modern RTS have these days, but Warcraft 3 does not have it. I think it'd be a great addition. One more quality of life change that could be considered is that when a game of Warcraft 3 begins, one of two options. Either automatically put to work all the workers that are spawning at the start of the game.
To jest kurwa właśnie, to jest najciekawsze. Ty dosłownie daje Blizzardowi listę banalnych rzeczy kurwa do zmiany, nie? Nic więcej stary nie muszą zrobić, po prostu posłuchać.
By putting them into the gold mine immediately, or if it's a ghoul to send it to lumber immediately. Not everyone may like this because it's never been that way, but newer RTS often have this, and it would be a nice quality of life improvement for beginners. I should say that I personally would not like this change, but I'm trying not to only think about myself, but it's not all about what I want, and I think it would help new players a lot, so I'm trying to think broadly here, and I think it'd be a cool quality of life improvement. The alternative to it would be that when you load into a game and the game starts, it would give you a 3-second timer to actually start playing the game. StarCraft 2 has this, but Warcraft 3 does not. This means that you are waiting from the loading screen, which often is very short, but I imagine it could be longer if you play on Reforged graphics or playing on a literal potato like a Raspberry Pi or whatever. And in that moment, it'd be nice if there was a 3-second countdown timer so that you can get mentally prepared for the game actually beginning. This would also level the playing field for everyone on different hardware to have the same delay on starting their workers, which is purely based on your own reaction speed and not based on how quickly you load into the game, which may create 1, 2 or 3 second discrepancies between different players. I found this one out only a couple of years ago. Apparently, Warcraft 3 has a hotkey for idle workers. The way I found this out is because I was playing Age of Empires 4 and I heavily relied on the usage of that hotkey. I bemoaned how Warcraft 3 doesn't have one like that, and people told me, yes it does. Apparently, either F8 or the tilde hotkey allows you to cycle through idle workers. There are a couple of problems with the way it's implemented in Warcraft 3 though. I say problems, it's relatively small, but it could be better. If I have 5 idle workers, pressing the idle worker hotkey repeatedly allows me to cycle between one and the next. If I hold shift and I press tilde multiple times, then I will select all of them. But as you notice, it just deselected one because I had already started my round and it was now reselecting one that I already had selected, which means it's unselecting them. So it is, now it's deselecting everything and I'm still holding shift. And now finally it's going to select all 5 of them again. So because it has like a certain order of going to the idle ones, if I start with the wrong one, then it will start adding and then remove one again. And then I can actually never get 5. So I have to start with shifting via the tilde hotkey. If this is a little confusing, let me put it more simply. If I want to select all my idle worker hotkeys, it would be nice if I could do Ctrl plus tilde. This works in Age of Empires 4, but not in Warcraft 3. What works in Warcraft 3 is just tilde, or tilde shift, tilde shift, tilde shift, tilde shift, tilde. Like this, I'll have all 5. But of course, If I have all peons on the screen and I double click it, it selects all. If I hold control and I left click a peon, it also selects all. So it also makes sense that control tilde would select all, but this unfortunately doesn't work, and it'd be nice if it could. If it's an easy change, it'd be a great improvement and would help me to coach and teach new players as I bring them into Warcraft 3 as well. Additionally, in Age of Empires 4, I can't believe I'm using Age of Empires 4 as an example, by the way. I helped them with so many missing UI issues and problems and bugs and so on. They got a lot better, which is why now I use them as an example, but they had many of their own problems because of videos like this, actually. So I'm going to continue using them as an example. In Age of Empires 4, you can choose when you select one of these workers or one of these units in this method, whether you want the camera to focus on it or not. So for instance, you could have monks that pick up relics in Age of Empires 4, and I actually have those on the same hotkey, which is tilde. You can choose whether when you click it, it actually focuses the camera on it. You see, in Warcraft 3 it's forced. I might want to select an idle worker with the hotkey when I'm busy here doing a fight. I might be fighting this camp right now, but I notice that one of my workers has become idle. Perhaps I want to hit the idle hotkey worker button and bring it here to build a farm here. But it will force my camera back to home where the worker is. Then I need to double tap my hero again to go back to the creeping. It'd be nice if the forced camera part was uncoupled from the fact of selecting idle workers.
No tylko jaki jest problem tych zmian? To jest to, co on powiedział trochę wcześniej. To są zmiany, które wymagają trochę więcej opcji i możliwości kustomizacji, co z jednej strony może być rozumiane jako coś, co by trochę zwiększało poziom gry na tej zasadzie, że im masz więcej opcji, tym większą ilością rzeczy teoretycznie ktoś może się przejmować, wiadomo, i uznać, że to go przeraża, ale z drugiej strony to chyba tutaj największym problemem jest to, że Blizzard by musiał cokolwiek zrobić.
This could be a setting in the input options. The next part is actually something that you have to teach every single Warcraft 3 player that you onboard. It's got to do with formations. Formations is on by default when you install a copy of Warcraft 3. Formations is a really good idea by Blizzard that allows you to walk around the map with units in a fixed formation where every unit matches their movement speed to the slowest unit in the group. This can be quite helpful. Very fast units, like the Raider and the Bat Rider, may be outpacing the rest of the army as they're going towards an opponent, and then very slow units, like Demolishers, will be trailing behind far. By using Formation Hotkey, the Demolisher is standing still and waiting until everyone is in the predetermined formation, and then when you start moving, everyone keeps the Demolisher's movement speed.
O Jezu, to jest tak irytujące.
This means that when we arrive at an opponent's base, it's all together. Basically, this is a very good idea, but it has a lot of very obvious downsides, which is why I always teach people to turn it off. These downsides include things such as unresponsive behavior. If I right-click this army to go below, the Demolisher, who wants to be behind in the formation, realizes that he wants to be at the back of the formation again, and the best way to do that is by standing still.
Excellent choice.
Once everyone has caught up and went past him, the Demolisher starts moving again.
Yes.
But during the time that the rest of them is trying to catch up, the Demolisher is standing still. Imagine now, for instance, that a Frostworm army is creeping up from above me. There's a Frostworm army coming in, and I want to run away. And I panic, and I take my whole army, and I say, go back
to bez kitu to masz 1,
to base.
1, 2, 3, 4, kurwa, napisy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 różnych szybkości, nie?
And the Demolisher is like, nah man, I'm at the back of the formation, I'm just gonna stay here. This is a very large problem. Sometimes this also affects your heroes. You might be doing a spam click on all of your units where you are about to get Coil Nova'd on your Blade Master. You want to get away.
Coil.
All of your army matters, but no one matters more than your blade. So you tell your whole army to go home, but the blade is really just very slow unnecessarily, and he gets Coil Nova'd and killed. The only way to prevent him from dying in this way is to select him individually and make sure he starts moving at full movement speed again. So I'd like to see formations as a useful thing in the campaign, but extremely counterproductive in multiplayer play. To the degree that for all of its upsides, the downsides are so much larger that I would much rather like to see this turned off by default, because it's literally just, you can pretty much bet on it. Anytime you look at a Bronze League player, a new player, they're going to have this on, they're not going to know they should turn it off, that their army becomes weirdly unresponsive. They're not going to understand why sometimes the Farseer is standing still because he's meant to be at the back of the formation. They're going to feel like the game is less responsive than what it really is. So this should be off by default when you install the game for the first time. Speaking about onboarding new players, my final tip and my final quality of life improvement, I would like to suggest for Blizzard to help bring more players in and to help keep more players in, is to use this dead space here to merge it with content creator content, such as build order.
Kurwa, nie miałem widzę pojęcia, naprawdę. Ja zawsze jak już grałem mele mapy, to grałem vis-a-vis antydami i jak nie wyszło na Cryptfindach, no to dobra, GG go next, nie? Nie, to
guides, tier list videos and gameplay videos so that people can learn how to play Warcraft 3 from some of the content creators that have been keeping the game alive. Good channels for this would be candidates such as youtube.com/followgrubby, youtube.com/grubbyplays, and youtube.com/grubbytalks. I'm sure there's more, but these are some of the main channels that I can think of right now. Additionally, 2 other great YouTube channels that could be integrated here as well in order to make the game of Warcraft 3 and the esports and the community of Warcraft 3 feel more alive. My favorite 2 channels are Back to Warcraft and Warcraft 3 Art. They're both YouTube channels that show high-level games of Warcraft 3, and it's a great place to get some inspiration for how to play some different builds as well. Having such easy access guide content in the client could be very helpful to educate players.
Kurde, myślałem, że będzie, wiecie, trochę więcej gameplayowych rzeczy, no ale jest okej, widzowie.